Welcome to Just Man Talk, bringing you the world from a man's perspective. Here are your hosts, Rick Brinkley and Al Weathers. All right, good afternoon. This is Rick, and this is the Overtime Sports Radio Show. I will be flying solo tonight, as my co-hosts and cohorts are otherwise tied up this evening. Of course, this is being recorded on Friday night, just after the Boston Police Department have captured the second suspect number 2, I guess, the Boston bomber, the 19-year-old brother of the one who was killed earlier. Sad to say that right now, as far as the reports are coming through, that he's still alive. They're saying he's mortally wounded, whatever. I'm sure that by the time you hear this, there'll be a lot more information than what I could give you now. So hopefully by the time you hear this, he'll be dead. I did write a little article, again, on justmantalk.com. You can check it out on my blog there on the website about the media coverage of this whole event, and my thoughts and views on the way that could have been handled differently. Obviously, it's headline news. This is something that has gripped the nation over the past couple 20 some odd hours, and since the whole chase has begun. Obviously started back on the marathon on Monday when the original bombing occurred, but ever since the manhunt has been underway and the gun battle that happened in the middle of Boston, in the middle of the streets of Boston, this has been pretty much locking down Twitter, Facebook, and pretty much every major news network has been locked into this coverage. CNN, of course, 24 hours of wall-to-wall coverage of the events in Boston. Of course, as always, our prayers go out to the families of the victims of the bombers and those who are affected by this, will be affected by this for a very long time to come. So hopefully, with this now coming to somewhat of a resolution, those who were affected by it the most can get on with the healing process. It's going to take a while. Obviously, it's a very traumatic experience. If you were there on the streets at Ground Zero during the bombings, you're definitely... It's going to take some time to kind of work through those emotions you're going to be feeling, especially if you had a loved one there that was injured or yourself was injured in the blast. So anyway, they got him. Hopefully, we can again move on and get back to some normalcy. I know it's kind of trivial to talk about sports when things like this are going on, but I also believe that at some point, if we're not going to let the terrorists win and give them what they want, which is for us to be in a constant state of fear and panic, since that's, usually that's the reason behind what they do, then I think the best thing to do is to try to get back to some normalcy so that we can do the opposite of what they would expect us to do, and that's freeze in fear and alter our lives because of something they did or decided they wanted to do, make a statement or whatever the case may be. So again, if you're hearing this by now, you already know, and what we'll do with the rest of the show here is we'll try to move on and get to some sports and try to again get back to some normalcy. So when we come back, we'll get into some NFL. They released the schedules today, so we'll talk about that. We'll also get into some NCAA football news. We'll talk some basketball. We'll talk some hockey. And we'll talk a little bit of other side notes here. I've got some other notes I want to talk about, some things not necessarily related to football or sports. So when we come back, that's what we'll do. Right now, you're listening to Overtime Sports Radio on FuegoBeats.com. You're listening to Just Man Talk. Visit us at www.justmantalk.com. Follow us on Twitter at JustManTalk. Send emails to feedback at justmantalk.com. And now, on with the show. Are you man enough? All right, thank you for joining us back here on Overtime Sports Radio. I'm Rick from Just Man Talk. I'm flying solo tonight. My co-conspirators are otherwise occupied, so let's get on with it. Let's jump right in. NBA playoffs getting ready to start. That's right. We got the Heat and the Bucks tipping off Sunday night on the 21st. They'll be on TNT. Heat and the Bucks. Hope that should be an easy round for the Heat. I don't see the Bucks putting up that much of a fight, although you never know. You could take them a little too lightly, and the Heat could get bounced out in the first round, and boy, wouldn't that suck. Not really. Knicks versus the Celtics. They tee off teed up Saturday, April 20th at 3 o'clock on ABC. Pacers and Hawks on Sunday afternoon. Sunday at 1 o'clock. Nets and Bulls. They're on Saturday at 8 p.m. on ESPN. You got the Thunder and the Rockets. Sunday at 9:30. Spurs Lakers. That should be a good one. And this one, I know we're not talking. Kobe's not going to be in this, okay? But if Dwight Howard's going to take over this team, this is where he needs to start making his name for himself. And they could give the Spurs some serious trouble. Although I think a lot of people are pretty much counting the Lakers out without Kobe. If he wants this team, this is when he needs to do it. So that's a very that one will be watched closely there. Nuggets and Warriors Saturday, 5:30. You get the Clippers and the Grizzlies at 10:30. So you got the full slate. Should be very interesting to see how things play out. Of course, if we're talking playoffs, that means the regular season is over. So let's take a look back at some of the standouts of the NBA season. Most valuable players got to be LeBron James. I don't really think anyone else. There may have been a couple votes somewhere else, and I think they were poorly cast. But anyway, could this guy get any better? Who knows? Basically, he is the far and away the best player in the league at this time. So I don't think we don't think there's anything you could say other than give him the award. I mean, the guy's ridiculous. He plays defense, he plays offense, and one thing he has really done is rounded out his game. If you need him to pass, he passes. You need him to shoot, he shoots. You need him to score, he scores. If he needs to make plays, he'll make them. If he needs to, feed the ball and draw the defense towards him while he's getting open shots for his teammates, he'll do that as well. He's a very well-rounded player, and probably deserves it, as much as I hate to say it. Defensive Player of the Year, got to be Tony Allen from the Grizzlies. Doesn't really get big steal numbers, doesn't really block shots. He's always in position now. He's always in your grill, always making the movement of every opposing swingman. Sometimes a point guard, a major hassle. This guy is always in your face. He's tenacious. He's got a constant motor. There is, if you're talking defense, you're talking somebody who's willing to put it all out there every play. without fail. And Tony Allen definitely does that. Rookie of the Year, Damian Lillard from the Trailblazers. He's already drawing comparisons to Isaiah Thomas. Dynamic ball handler, nice shooting stroke, can drive to the basket whenever he wants. He's also a pretty good guy, all things considered. 6 men a year, Jamal Crawford. I don't think there's any question about that. Man, how many times this guy got to come off the bench and save Chris Paul and save a team that has two huge stars like Chris Paul and Blake Griffin? I mean, too many to count. I mean, this guy, been a journeyman of sorts, his previous stops, Chicago, Golden State, Atlanta, Portland, New York, twice. But he's doing one thing well in every location. That's coming off the bench and lighting up opponents. So, definitely good job there for Jamal Crawford. He's a shoe-in for 6 man of the year. Most improved player, probably Paul George from the Pacers. Beginning of the season, the Pacers were panicked about losing Danny Granger to a knee injury. Well, they haven't really missed a beat. That's primarily because of Granger's replacement. That would be none other than George, who increased the scoring by more than 5 points per game, from 12.1 to 17.4. He's also underrated rebounder. Fits in very well with the Pacers' physical philosophy of trying to beat you by beating you down. Coach of the Year, George Karl for the Nuggets. Raise your hand if you predicted the Nuggets would emerge as the team that won the trade involving Dwight Howard and Andrew Bynum. I mean, the Nuggets got Andre Iguodala and in a trade, a nice player, but not exactly someone who's expected to change the course of the franchise. In fact, the Nuggets didn't have a single All-Star. Yet set the franchise record for wins in a season anyway at 56. So Karl's overcome a lot, both in his professional and personal life. As far as the former is concerned, this is clearly his greatest achievement. So nice job there, Karl. Most underrated, probably Al Horford from the Hawks. The Hawks were supposed to stink. I mean, they were even okay with stinking, but Horford is a huge reason why that didn't happen. He bangs underneath the basket. He scores from the top. He hustles. He brings it on every play in every game. Mostly he proved that if you plan to stink, you better make sure he's not on the team. The biggest disappointment is probably Thomas Robinson of the Rockets. Granted, he's only a rookie, but there's still plenty of time. But when you're drafted 5th overall by Sacramento and they get traded, then still don't look like anything special in your new city. Well, it's hard to call anything but a first-year flop. So basically, the only thing most observers are saying about Robinson is that he may have Derek Williams syndrome. So we still don't know if he's a power forward or a small forward or worse, neither. So definitely most disappointing. So what are your thoughts on who do you think is going to take it all? Are is the Heat just going to sweep right on through? Let us know. Contact us at fuegobeats.com. Send us an email and let us know who you're picking, what games, what's your most intriguing matchup. What game are you looking forward to? Are you going to be watching the tip-off on Saturday? Are you going to be watching the playoffs? How much playoff action are you going to be watching? Or do you watch it? I mean, for me, the playoffs are pretty long. In the NBA, they're almost as long as the regular season. So I probably won't really get hot and heavy until we get closer to maybe the conference championships or somewhere around there, maybe around before that. But if they're so long, it's kind of hard. I mean, some of the matchups is intriguing. See some of the star players and what they can do, who gets out of the gate fast and who doesn't. But let us know. Give us a shout. Let us know what you think. Tweet us at Fuego Beats Radio and at Just Man Talk and let us know. We come back. We'll get into some NFL. The schedules were released. I would like to go through, since this is being broadcast right outside of the Washington, D.C. suburbs, I'd like to go through the Redskins schedule and give you my thoughts on what's there and some other intriguing matchups that are going to be happening throughout the year, and what the NFL did to either basically give the Redskins a nice shot in the arm or a big, humongous setup for disappointment. We'll be right back on Overtime Sports Radio, FuegoBeats.com. This is Rick from Just Man Talk, and you're listening to Overtime on FuegoBeats.com. You're listening to Just Man Talk. All right, thank you for coming back. This is Overtime Sports Radio. This is Rick from Just Man Talk. Again, I'm flying solo. My compadres are busy and have family obligations, so we're going to be putting this down with your help, hopefully. It'll be a great show, so hope you're enjoying it so far. Right now, of course, we've talked NBA, but now it's time to talk about the big dog. That's right, the NFL! That's right. If you're an NFL fan, you are as pumped up as I am when you hear that music. I think I got a little chub working under the table here. So why the excitement? The NFL has released the schedule for next year. That's right. They have released the new NFL schedule. Of course, we're still 5 months away. That just shows you how big the big dog really is. When they can release a schedule 5 months in advance and you can get this excited about going through it. Of course, the draft is a little more than 5 days away. So, again, the excitement. I mean, the NFL has become a year-round spectator sport. I don't care if they're playing a game or not. There are things that happen in the NFL from the free agency signing period, the OTAs, the draft, the release of the schedule, these things, training camp. It doesn't matter what's going on in the NFL. It's exciting if you're a football fan. They are definitely market geniuses over there. They definitely know what they're doing. The sport has grown to monumental proportions. NFL has got to be the most popular brand. You could arguably talk about Nike, Apple, whatever, but the NFL, at least in the United States, has got to be the most popular brand there is. So, of course, when they release the schedule and you see the enticing matchups coming right out of the gate, week one, it really does get you going here. So let's talk about it. Let's get into the schedule a little bit. So week one, they start Thursday night, first game right out of the chute, Ravens at the Broncos. Of course, you've got the big contract Flacco signed in the offseason, making him their franchise quarterback for years to come. You've got Peyton Manning on his second year back after being out of the league for a year with the neck surgery and things. The signing of Wes Welker in Denver makes that a very exciting game. Lots of intriguing storylines there. They're going to make you get right out of the gate a divisional matchup. To see these two go at it, it's going to be something pretty special. A great way to kick off. You have the retirement of the linebacker there, Ray Lewis, of course. So a lot of exciting, intriguing storylines going on in that game, of course. Let's talk a few of the other games here. Saints, Falcons, two teams that are expected to be in the NFC race in the playoffs. So a nice first day Sunday matchup there. Go down a little further here. We've got Vikings, Lions. Are the Lions actually going to do something this year? Packers, 49ers. The 4 o'clock game on Sunday. An exciting matchup there. San Francisco has added some key players there. They've had a great offseason, one would think. The Packers lost a few players, but you can never really count them out if they're healthy. Sunday night, Giants, Cowboys. Are the Giants going to bounce back again this year? Romo, with his huge signing in the offseason, his huge contract that he signed, is he finally going to live up to the hype, or is he going to forever be the greatest regular season quarterback to never do anything in the playoffs? Locally here, I mean, we're broadcasting out of Virginia, right outside of D.C., so the Redskins rule the land here. They open up Monday night, Redskins, Eagles. Divisional game. You got Chip Kelly taking over the Eagles. There's Donovan McNabb. There's a Freudian slip. Is Michael Vick going to earn the starting job there and run that blur offense that was popularized in Oregon with Chip Kelly? How is that going to translate into the NFL? Can the defenses defend against it? Will they be in shape enough to stay out on the field long enough to be able to stop it? I mean, when you're running an offense that's predicated on running a play every 12 seconds, you're talking about blur. You're talking about superior conditioning you're going to have to be in as a defense and as an offense in order to stay out on the field and be effective at either running that offense or stopping it. So, very intriguing matchup right out of the gate. RG3, will he be back? Of course, that will be the biggest story leading up to that game, is RG3 coming back from his knee surgery, 2 ligaments being repaired, one for the second time. So, again, there's a ton of storylines. You can see I'm charged up already. So it should be a great first week in the NFL. Is it going to tell us the story of the season? No. But it's definitely going to be exciting. I'm obviously, you can tell I'm excited. So again, we're in DC here, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Redskins schedule. Of course, the thing that jumps out at you is the Redskins get 5 primetime games. Now, this is kind of this concerns me in one of two ways. Well, actually, it concerns me in 2 ways. One being, obviously, I love the fact that we're going to get the spotlight on 5, primetime games, and normally that would be a great thing. But with RG3 rehabbing this off season, of course, the main question is he going to be healthy enough to start Week 1? Now, Adidas is running their campaign all in for Week 1. They've been running that for a while, which I think is stupid to put that kind of pressure on a player when you do not want him to play unless he is 100% healthy. After all, that's kind of what put him out of the league last year to begin with, was coming out and playing on a knee that was already injured to the point where he should have come out, I think, and I think a lot of people would agree, that he should not have been playing that last part of the game there. So you wonder, obviously, the best thing would be to make sure he's 100% before you put him back out on the field. You do not want to rush this young man and have him come back out on the field unless he's 100% Week 1. Obviously, the more important thing here is to have him healthy for a very long time, for a decade to come. And the last thing you want to do is risk that by putting him out on a game 1 in a season where it's a 16-game season. You don't want to rush him back. And even though it is a divisional opponent, I think, again, it's more important to have him out there for the long run than it is to get him out there quickly just for the sake of doing it. So having a Monday night opener, but again, you've got they'll have plenty to talk about. His rehab, how soon he'll be back, when there'll be a lot of prognosticators talking about when he'll be able to return. Of course, no one will know that except for RG3, and his body will tell him when it's ready. He's ready to come back. And you've got Kirk Cousins, the whole story there. Again, the Redskins drafted him after drafting RG3, raised a lot of eyebrows. I think they used a 4th-round pick on him. So there were a lot of naysayers questioning that move. Of course, last year, they paid dividends when RG3 went down, and Kirk Cousins was able to come in at the end of the game and throw the touchdown pass for the win, and then the following week play the full game and notch another win on the Redskins. Fantastic finish which put them into playoffs and gave them the division crown at the end of the season last year, which they would not have done or been able to do had Kirk Cousins not been able to come in and perform the way he did. You would kind of wonder what would have happened if we were, had stuck with Rex Grossman coming out in those late seconds of the late minutes of the game when RG3 went down. Of course, we saw what happened the year before when that happened, with going back and forth between him and McNabb, whatever. So again, we'll see what happens. I'm excited about the prospect of him being back for week 1, but again, I would rather he come back when he's fully and completely healthy before we put him out on a field and risk losing him for another season or endangering his career long term or forever. So again, we open up Monday night, Philadelphia Eagles. It's going to be a home game, so that'll be very exciting. FedEx Field will be rocking. The following week, Sunday, 1 o'clock game, Green Bay Packers. Bam, bam, 1-2, right out of the gate, 2 NFC matchups. The following week, we go to Detroit, and then we go. We're home against Detroit, and then we go to Oakland. So if you're looking at that first 4-game stretch, the following week we have a bye. The Redskins could conceivably come out of that 3-1. And the Eagles with Chip Kelly, you got to wonder, there may be some action early, but you would hope that the Redskins could, even with Kirk Cousins, could knock them down without an issue. Green Bay Packers may be a tough one going to Green Bay. Of course, we're lucky in the fact that we get them in September and not in December, so the weather should not be an issue there. Home against Detroit. Detroit beats us. The one thing, they're never very good, but they always seem to beat the Redskins or at least give them a tough time. So that'll be interesting to see if the Redskins can finally shake that dog off of them. So we'll see. But that Oakland Raiders, I don't think they'll be any good. So Redskins could come out of that 3-1, and then they go to Dallas. A Sunday night primetime game, another primetime game, 8:30 p.m. At Dallas in the Strip Palace there. So that'll be exciting. Then home against the Bears. Then we go on the road to Denver. That's going to be a tough game. We're the 4 o'clock game on Sunday that day. Then we come home against San Diego Chargers. Then we go to Minnesota, to the Eagles. Now that takes us up to November 17th. Again, the Minnesota Vikings game is a Thursday night game, so we're home against San Diego. Then we go to Minnesota on a short week, and then we've got 10 days to prepare for the Eagles game on Sunday afternoon. So there's no reason why we shouldn't sweep the Eagles this year, and for that matter, the Dallas Cowboys probably split with the Giants. We'll see about that. Then we've got 3 home games in a row: San Francisco, the Giants, and the Kansas City Chiefs. San Francisco, that's going to be a hard one. They're stacked this year. That's a Monday night game. Then the very next week, we're home Sunday night against the New York Giants. So 2 back-to-back primetime games there. And then Sunday, Kansas City, I don't expect them to be any good. I have no faith in the Kansas City Chiefs getting things together there, even with the recent acquisition of their new quarterback. Then we go to Atlanta, home against the Cowboys, and to finish up at New York Giants. So that could be those last 2 games versus Dallas and home against Dallas and at the New York Giants. That could decide the division if RG3 is able to come back healthy and play the way he did last year. And even with the salary cap hit, hopefully we'll be able to add a few, at least 1 or 2 starters through the draft, which I expect them to definitely go with defensive back help, either being safety or corner for sure. We'll see about that. But so very exciting. The schedule being released. Redskins with 5 primetime games. And an opening weekend that looks to be phenomenal. Looks to really get things started off. The NFL sure knows how to do it. get anything started off with a bang on week 1. So we'll talk more sports, more NFL when we come back. Again, this is Rick on Overtime Sports Radio on FuegoBeats.com. You're listening to Just Man Talk. Are you man enough? All right, thank you for coming back. Again, this is Rick from Just Man Talk. You're listening to Overtime Sports Radio on FuegoBeats.com. Let's get back into the NFL. Got some more news and notes. First of all, James Harrison, formerly of the Steelers, and a former NFL Defensive Player of the Year, has agreed to a deal with the Cincinnati Bengals, a rival, divisional rival. It is a 2-year deal, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. Harrison tweeted out the news to his followers, "Whoa-dee, hello, Cincinnati." Harrison was released by the Steelers in March after refusing to take a pay cut. So, again, after all the fines, if you remember a couple years back when the NFL started getting tougher on the concussion hits, the unprotected receiver hits and things of that nature, hits to the head, leading with your helmet type hits, Harrison seemed to be the poster child for how to do it wrong. After years of being applauded for his style of play, his hard-nosed, hard-hitting, most feared type of linebacker in the NFL type of thing, and all of a sudden they shifted gears on him, and everything he had been doing up to that point in his career was pretty much wrong, and he became basically Roger Goodell's whipping boy, fining him incredible amounts, unheard of, setting precedents for the amount of fines this man had to pay. Of course, and he was not your $4 million a year linebacker. I think at the time he was making less than $1 million a year. So of course, he's not going to take a pay cut. Half the money he's earned in football since he's been in football was paid out in fines in a matter of a year. So at one point, Harrison was contemplating just retiring because he could not play the way he had been accustomed to playing his entire life, his entire career in the NFL. So he signs with Cincinnati, and of course he'll be facing his rivals. I'm sure that's going to be pretty exciting for him to go back. It's always exciting to go back and play your former team. It gives you a little extra incentive. So we'll see how that works out. Clay Matthews signed a contract extension with the Green Bay Packers, pretty much making him one of the highest paid linebackers in the history of the NFL. Jay Glazier is reporting that Matthews scored a 5-year extension, just a little bit higher than $13 million per season. DeMarcus Ware for the Cowboys has been the highest paid linebacker in the league at $13 million per year. So again, he's going to this guy, I mean, you can never count this guy. Had a slow start last year, finished up I think with about 16 sacks. So you got to account for this guy on every single play. He's got a high motor. He never stops. He's one of the most talented linebackers in the league. He is a game changer, a la Ray Lewis, or even going I mean, just ridiculous amounts of talent there. He's a matchup nightmare for anybody. He's got speed. He's got power. He's relentless. He's experienced. And he is definitely a quarterback killer. So he gets his big payday there with the Green Bay Packers. So good for him. And in a little bit of sad news, Pat Summerall passed away, one of the original voices of the NFL, the man who became the voice of the NFL on Fox when the brand was born in 94. He died on the 16th, age 82. Of course, he's best known for working on Super Bowls and his partnership with John Madden. I knew him best as the first play-by-play voice in the Madden video game. For me, it's synonymous. Pat Summerall talking about just sounds to kind of bring back memories. I've been playing Madden football since its inception, pretty much, when it was nothing but a couple squares on a TV screen, and Pat Summerall was there from the beginning with John Madden calling the games. So his voice is synonymous. I mean, some of the greatest games in NFL history are being called by Pat Summerall and John Madden. Of course, he not only that, but he called all kinds of sports from tennis to golf and other things. So he was a very well-rounded, and he'll be a much missed broadcaster, not only in the NFL but in other sports. The Giants wide receiver Victor Cruz is still unsigned. Even as the deadline for restricted free agents to sign offer sheets with other teams is approaching, the Giants general manager Jerry Reese was making no assumptions about Victor Cruz. He's being tight-lipped about it. He was the team's top pass catcher of 2012. He's still unsigned. They tendered him a 1-year first-round offer worth about $2.9 million. So basically, signed a 1-year tender, you get your close to $3 million. If somebody wants to claim you or match that, they'll have to compensate the Giants with a first-round pick in the upcoming draft. He continues to remain absent from the team's voluntary offseason conditioning program, which you really can't blame him for that. I mean, if you go in there and you pull a hamstring or you tweak an Achilles or worse, you stand a chance of not getting paid at all. So you're gonna play that last year under contract, and that'll be it. So I can see why he wouldn't want to go back in at the risk of getting injured. He caught 86 passes for 1,000 yards last year, almost 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns. Was definitely the most productive receiver they had on their team. Of course, the general manager Jerry Reese, his quote: "I don't assume anything. When we get ready to play, we'll have a good player. I don't know if Victor Cruz will be on the team or not. If Victor's not here, we have other receivers. One player doesn't make your team, but of course, Victor Cruz last year was the best receiver on your team. So, and with the exodus of Manningham and a couple of other receivers recently, he's become the centerpiece of your offense. So, you got to wonder, are they going to be able to be as productive this coming season without him, giving Eli just one less weapon to throw to? So you got to wonder how that's going to resolve itself. I guess time will tell. We'll see. So that's the NFL. It's exciting. I can't wait. Definitely the adrenaline starts to flow even at the release of the schedule 5 months away. Of course, the draft is coming up. I'm not a draft guru, but it's supposed to be a very soft draft to the point that Charlie Casserly, former general manager for the Washington Redskins during their formative years, Super Bowl winning seasons, he went on to be the first general manager of the Texans when they expanded into the league, and he, of course, now is an analyst, and he has his, in his little mock draft, he's predicting no quarterbacks being taken at all in the first round. So you wonder if Geno Smith is going to, survive going through the first round. I think I saw a story the other day where he will be at the NFL draft headquarters in New York. So you kind of wonder if he's gonna have to go through the humiliation of sitting there and watching the entire first round go by without getting selected. Although I think somebody's going to reach on him. I honestly believe that if he makes it past the Raiders, that you might actually see the Philadelphia Eagles snatch him. I think they pick 4th or 5th. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't think, depending on Chip Kelly and how sold he is on Michael Vick. Of course, Michael Vick's aging. He's in his 30s now, so you wonder, are they going to count on who's it, Nick Folks or whatever? I mean, come on. So they may actually be in, if he sees enough film, and all it takes is one person on that staff, either the general manager or the head football coach, to fall in love with a player, and then, their rating system and how high they put him on the draft board is very subjective to what they need and what they feel is the best suited to run their offense. And with this blur offense coming out of Oregon with Chip Kelly, you never know what he's thinking or how highly he's going to rate Geno Smith in that offense or his ability to possibly run that offense. So it'll be very interesting to see what they decide to do. Of course, we talked a couple of weeks ago about the fact there is no after you get past like the top 7, 8 quarterbacks, the drop off is very significant as far as the talent level goes. It's not like the days going by where you could have a dozen or so quarterbacks, and even beyond that, maybe 20 quarterbacks that could competently run an NFL offense, or even win you a game here and there. Nowadays, you've got your elite, and then you've got your middlings, and there's not a whole lot in between that. Maybe a few, like your Romos and a couple of others that can manage a game, but just can't seem to be able to put the finishing touches on winning you a game. So, going to be very exciting. The draft, of course, is just going to fuel more speculation about the teams and how they're going to do. You're going to get post-draft grades. Of course, it's kind of ridiculous because you don't know how these young men are going to play out. Who would have, you look at Tom Brady when he was drafted, the post-draft grade on him probably would have been very poor. Here's a guy that's probably going to ride the pine until he eventually is out of football, and yet here he is, a multiple Super Bowl winner, an MVP, Super Bowl first candidate, Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Famer, without a doubt. And so you never know how it's going to play out. So again, we'll see, and we'll get more into this and more topics on Overtime Sports Radio. We'll be right back. You're listening to Just Man Talk, where we try to bring you the world from a man's perspective. Visit us at www.justmantalk.com. Follow us on Twitter at JustManTalk. Send emails to feedback@justmantalk.com. And now, on with the show. All right, thank you for coming back. Again, this is Rick from Just Man Talk on Overtime Sports Radio. Let's talk NFL draft. Let's get into that a little bit. Of course, probably the team that holds the most influence is going to be the 49ers, believe it or not. Of course, they have the 31st overall pick. And so it could be very exciting for them. The fact that they own 13 selections in this month's draft certainly makes them a huge player in the draft this year. Of course, they've signed Phil Dawson, Nnamdi Asomugha, and Glenn Dorsey this offseason. And, of course, they traded for Anquan Boldin and Colt McCoy. I'm not sure which one of them is the most important one there. Definitely Anquan Boldin gives another big target for them. So very interesting there with 13 picks. I mean, a lot of trades, a lot of movement could happen in the mid rounds there, mid to late rounds. So they could end up positioning themselves, even moving up into the draft with multiple picks, just making their team stronger. So they've definitely got themselves in a great position here. They've done a phenomenal job with their trades and things, compensatory picks and things like accumulating these extra draft picks. So some are calling it the San Francisco 49ers Invitational because they'll pretty much be running the board for a great part of the time there. The Eagles, there's a new boss in town, so he's got all the confidence and bluster in the world. So you've got to wonder what he's going to do in the draft. What his philosophy is going to be. He's got Michael Vick. He's got Nick Foles. You got to wonder again if he's going to roll roll the dice on Geno Smith or EJ Manuel in the first two rounds. Of course, his defensive backfield went under an extreme makeover in March. All 4 starting positions were changed. He's got new players like Kelly Phillips, Kerry Williams, Patrick Chung, and Bradley Fletcher. All likely will start come week 1. So where does he go in the first round at number 4? Anybody's guess. Second, third round selection could be even more intriguing. The Rams, as everyone else does, flips over what Seattle and 49ers have done this season. The Rams have quietly loaded up. the third team in the NFC West. Inked a long-term deal with tight end Jared Cook. They also got Jake Long at a decent price. If they're both healthy, they can be immediate upgrades on the offense. Of course, they hold several cards due to the fact that they acquired picks from the Redskins in the RG3 trade this last season. So they own Washington's first round pick at number 22 in addition to their own at number 16. So again, are they going to package those and move up, or package one in a second round and one of the first round picks to try to move up if they see a player that's at a spot they want to grab him at? So they have obviously they have a needed wide receiver, still not addressed that yet. They like youngsters like Chris Gibbons, Austin Pettis, Brian Quick. So we'll see what they go there. Where they decide. The Jaguars, could be another intriguing one. They've been linked to just about every prospect in this draft, but they're not showing their cards at all. Is it going to be Sharif Floyd, Geno Smith, Bjorn Werner, Oregon's ultra athletic outside linebacker Deion Jordan, D. Milner, the top corner, or Central Michigan left tackle Eric Fisher? I mean, really, they're not. They've got a lot of power at number 2, so we'll have to see exactly what they do. Do they drop go ahead and trade that for multiple picks, because they do need a lot? So they could shop it around, like I said, and try to expand it into more picks. They got a new head coach, Gus Bradley, so we'll see what his philosophy is. Will they decide to go ahead and pull the trigger there at number 2, and maybe they go Geno Smith? Maybe they shock everyone and take Geno out the gate. Again, it really depends on what you do. The Vikings have 2 picks in the first round, 4 picks in the first 3 rounds. So they've got the 23rd pick, courtesy of the Percy Harvin trade, and then the 25th pick just 2 picks later. In other years, that wouldn't be such a big deal. And this year, it's 2 very valuable picks. The NFL draft isn't, the draft isn't as top-heavy as previous years, but you could find 2 players in the 20s who end up making more of an impact than 2 players, or as 2 players in the top 10. So we'll see. They hit 2 home runs in 2012. Of course, they got Matt Khalil at number 4, and then entered the first round. They got Harrison Smith. So those are the 5 teams I think right now that are the most intriguing to watch in the NFL draft, for various reasons. So we'll have to see how that plays out. And again, it's that NFL machine just really, really churning even in the off season, just making it absolutely painstaking to wait for the beginning of the year. But with the NFL Network and the wall-to-wall coverage and 24-hour speculation, it's just so exciting. So we'll talk more football. We'll talk more. We're going to get into a couple little house cleaning things here when we come back. And thanks for joining us on Overtime Sports Radio. This is Rick from Just Man Talk. We'll be back in a minute. You're listening to Overtime with Tipsy and Rick. This is Just Man Talk. Are you man enough? All right, thanks for coming back. This is Rick from Just Man Talk again on Overtime Sports Radio, FuegoBeach.com, and we're going to get into some little house cleaning things. First of all, in NCAA football, LSU senior running back Alfred Blue has weighed in on the issue on how gay football players should be received or will be received. He spoke with the Daily Revel school newspaper. His quote was, "Football is supposed to be this violent sport, this aggressive sport that grown men are supposed to play. Ain't no little boys out here between them lines. So if you gay, we look at you as a sissy, Like, how you going to say that you do what we do and you want a man?" End quote. Well, first of all, Mr. Blue, that's a very narrow-minded way to think. Again, I don't know if he's been watching too many movies and he thinks that all gay men are some sissified, punks that run around with palms up, screaming at the top of their lungs and talking like this and all like that. But let me tell you something. Some of these guys are pumped. They are physical, and what I would hate to do, I would hate for to happen is for Mr. Blue to come through the hole one day carrying a rock and have some big ass linebacker knock his dick in the dirt, and then have Mr. Blue find out he's gay. I guarantee you it'll happen. Whether or not he'll know that player that did it to him is gay, but he has definitely set himself up for a humiliating set of circumstances there. Mr. Blue, just keep your mouth shut and play football. That'd be best served for everyone involved, including and especially yourself. You're setting yourself up for some embarrassment there. So, again, I know, guys, I get it. It's 3 weeks in a row we've had a gay topic. You can't escape it. Brittany Griner came out. That's another one. She came out. She's gay. So it seems like everybody in sports is freaking gay anymore. But you know what I say? Shut up. Play the football game or whatever it is, whatever sport you're in. Just play the game. Shut up. And let's move on. Let's talk a little baseball. Of course, right now, you got quite a few things happening. It's early in the season. But let's go ahead and we'll just talk. Let me open this up here, the standings. Right now, the Red Sox are 11-4, getting off to a nice start. Yankees following them at 9-6. And the Yankees, man, they've got some trouble. Now, they've actually been doing well, all things considered. But with the injuries they're starting with this year, you gotta wonder how long their winning is going to last. Derek Jeter, he's among many of the Yankees 30-somethings that are injured out this year. I think he's trying to come back from an broken ankle. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, somebody of his age is going to take a little longer to heal than some 20-something coming out with the same injury. Alex Rodriguez, he's 37. He's coming back from hip surgery. They're hoping to get him back by the All-Star break. We'll see if that happens. Mark Teixeira is out. He's got a partially torn tendon sheath in his right wrist, which I believe happened in early May. You have to see when he's going to come back. He's trying to. That's the same injury that had Blue Jays right fielder Jose Bautista down last season that ultimately led to a season-ending surgery. So we'll have to see how the rehabs are going to go with these guys. Again, if they can continue to do what they're doing, that their mantra has been, let's hold on to the big dog's return. But if they can continue to do what they're doing, they'll be fine. And once they get a couple of these back, a couple of these key players back, we'll see how it goes. But again, you've got to wonder, there may be even a case where a couple of these guys don't come back. So we'll have to see how that plays out. The Athletics right now are, as far as the American League, are leading. Leading with a 12-5 record. The Rangers right behind them at 10-6. In the National League, the Braves are on fire. They're 13-3, having just swept the Nationals in their place. All three games, they are absolutely on fire. They've just won. They're 6-2 at home, 7-1 on the road. So obviously, you look in their division. The Nationals are 3-4 on the road. The Mets are 3-5 on the road. The Phillies are 3-6 on the road. The Marlins are 2-6 on the road. So winning on the road has definitely been the key to their success. They're pretty much the same average, 6-2, 6-3 for the Nationals at home, but their road games, having swept the Nationals, they're just on fire right now at 13-3. Their pitching is outstanding. They're really, really putting the pressure on everyone early this year. The Nationals, of course, have had their struggles. Mainly their starting rotation hasn't been what they had hoped it would be. When you look at their ERAs right now, Strasburg, he's 1-3 coming out the gate after season-ending Tommy John surgery in his rehab season last year, being pulled with about a little less than a month ago in the season. His first full season this year should be, was hopefully going to be his breakout season here. They're looking at him pitching 200 plus innings this year. He's currently got a 2.96 ERA. Jordan Zimmerman, although he's 3-0, he's got a 2.45 ERA, which is pretty good. Ross Detweiler is 1-0. Gio Gonzalez is 1-1 with a 4.5 ERA. That's not going to get it done. And of course, their acquisition this year, their fifth starter, Dan Herron, starting off very poorly. He's 1-2 with an 8.1 ERA. So, got to do some work there. Of course, he's a veteran, so you would anticipate that he would be able to rectify that fairly quickly. He's been, pitching in this league for a while, so we'll see how that goes. The problem is he's not going very deep. I don't think he's been past the fifth inning this year without having to get pulled. So now you're putting pressure on your bullpen to come in and have to pitch extra innings than what you had originally anticipated. Their original plan was to get their starters to the seventh inning and then be able to go 1, 2, 3 with their closers from last year, Clippard, Storen, and of course their their recent acquisition this year, Rafael Soriano. So that was the plan. Starters pitch till inning 7, then you go pitch to inning 6, the end of sixth inning, then you start the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning with Tyler, Clippard, Storen, and Soriano. And I guess Soriano would be considered the actual closer. But then you could actually, with Clippard having the extensive closing experience that he's had, and Soriano got his last year when Clippard was out. So you've got, 3 guys that are, quality closers that you could, give rest to the other guys. But if you're not getting past the 5th inning and you're going into the middle relievers and things like that, so, that's not the kind of situation they want to be in. So we'll see in the NHL, the Capitals right now. If the season ended today, they'd be in it. But you got to wonder, how they're going to finish it out. Things are getting a little tight. They took a loss a couple nights ago. They didn't want to take from Winnipeg. So, of course, Winnipeg's right up on their heels. Capitals at this point are 24-18. The Jets are 23-19. So really tight. The Jets have got a 5-game winning streak going on. Of course, one of those is against the Caps, so we'll see how that works out in the Western Conference. So really not as close, I think, in the Northwest. You got the Wild and the Canucks are both at 24 wins, so they're in a race there. The Blackhawks pretty much run away with the Central, so they'll probably be the number 1 overall seed with 34-5. They're just the class of the division right now, the conference rather. So very interesting. We're getting ready. So again, you've got the NFL draft in 5 days. You've got starting today. If you're listening today, you've got the NBA playoffs start today. The NHL players are getting ready to come up. So it's an exciting time in sports. Enjoy it. We'll continue to talk about it. Hopefully you'll continue to tune in and listen. Again, this is Rick from Just Man Talk. This is Overtime Sports Radio. Hopefully we'll see you next week with the full crew. We'll get Tipsy and Jason back on here. And I look forward to talking to you then. Enjoy. Have a great time. And we'll talk to you next week. This is Rick on Overtime Sports Radio. And this is FuegoBeats.com.